if the Europeans had taken these gold coins and spent them into the economy for their own pleasures and not left the Incan people alone, the curse stated that these explorers would basically live a living death. It turns out that the explorers took the gold coins and, of course, did what they shouldn't do with them. They spent them for whatever pleasures, food, for adventure, personal goods, romance, whatever. And they never let the Incan people alone. So consequently, the explorers and their crew were turned into a ghost ship, and by day, or in the shadows, the crew of this ship, as well as the captain, appeared to be living souls and entity. But in the moonlight, they were all skeletons and dead people, and would never die. And this vessel was rumored to be sailing on the high seas, and from time to time, other vessels and ships and sailors said that they saw this vessel with its crew, but many people believed it was just a old wives' tale and bear no truth. At the start of the story, we are in a period of time back in the Caribbean, maybe 1700s, and we are on board a vessel in which there is this young girl traveling with her father, and her father has been appointed as the governor of one of these islands belonging to a European nation in the Caribbean. And this vessel runs across the wreckage of another vessel which appears to have been sunk by some kind of attacking entity, probably a pirate ship. And this young boy, about 12 years old, is fished out of the water, and around his neck is a medallion with one of these gold coins on it. He has been somewhat injured, and he passes in and out of mental competency, drifting into like a sleep. And during one of those periods of time when he drifts off, the young girl helped herself to the gold medallion that was around the young boy's neck. And she kept it as a personal treasure, and the main story takes place about 12 to 15 years later when she's grown up, and so is the young boy. The young boy has become a helper's apprentice to the blacksmith on the island. And of course, the girl is living there now as the eligible, marriable young daughter of the governor of this island. She is both attractive and a prize to whatever rich young man might seek to court her. And the prime suitor appears to be this young military captain who's in charge of the military garrison on this island that is there to protect commerce. The young lady really is not terribly interested in this military man. She seems to be somewhat interested in the young blacksmith, even though her father discourages that because he is not in her class. It turns out, though, that this island is attacked by a pirate ship, and the purpose of the attack is to come and secure the gold medallion that has now been found to be in her possession. In order to undo the curse that the Inca priests have put on these pirates that are living a living death, two things are necessary. Number one, the pirates that took all this treasure and spent it unwisely on commercial endeavors have to reclaim all 882 pieces of these gold coins and restore them for a non-commercial purpose in order to redeem their activities and wipe out the curse. And secondly, in the redemption, they must also seek the blood of the innocent man who had warned the pirates not to do this, so that by the spilling of that blood, along with the redeeming of the gold pieces, the curse might be lifted and the men may get their lives and their souls back again. It turns out that the innocent man whose blood was needed happened to have been one of the pirates who had told the rest of his buddies that they better not do what they're going to do. And the pirates were not happy with their fellow buddies' advice. So they took their buddy and tied a large weight to him and threw him overboard from their vessel, and their buddy sank into the ocean, drowned, and died, making it pretty much impossible for them to get him back alive so that they could shed his blood to get their redemption. But it turns out that this pirate gentleman had a son, and the son has the DNA blood of the father. And the son turned out to be the blacksmith that now existed on this island. But the pirates did not know that yet at this stage. So what this movie is all about is it's kind of a gospel of the Scripture set to a pirate tale of adventure through a curse set by an Inca priest, dealing with how do you get rid of your sin and get back to perfection. What part of a similar story in most all Hollywood movies are not being told again in this particular movie. Now, this movie is done with adventure, romance, interesting characters, a love story, a strong young woman who goes out and fights for what's right. She represents the church. And when she was attacked in her father, the governor's house on the island, and these two pirates said, basically, give us the gold medallion, she looked at them and declared that she was invoking the rules of parley, and that she was demanding an administrative hearing in front of their captain. To which the two pirates looked at each other and looked at her and looked at each other and basically said, duh, can she do that? And the other pirate said, well, she invoked the rule, and we have to honor and obey her request. So rather than just take back the gold medallion and kill her or leave her, they abducted her and took her with them without taking the gold medallion from her, because it was her request that she be given an administrative hearing in front of the captain of the vessel. You talk about judicial trial, administrative process. She understood exactly what was going on. This is not going to be a trial. I am invoking a rule which under your code mandates that you take me to your captain for an administrative hearing. When she was on board the vessel and she was brought before the captain said basically, what do you want? And she said, I am invoking a particular hearing under your code. And the pirate captain looks at her and said, okay, you've got it. What do you want? To which she gave to the captain a series of pleadings with a draft request. And she offered to the captain of the pirates the gold medallion as the consideration to carry out her side of the equal exchange under the offers and the acceptance being given in these proceedings. To which the captain of the vessel accepted her offer and requested that she turn over the gold medallion as the consideration, which she quite nicely did. To which the captain of the pirates started walking away across the deck of the vessel from her. She looked at the retreating captain and said, Captain, you have not granted me A, B, and C. To which the captain pivoted, looked straight at her, and said basically close to the following. I, matey, number one, you have invoked the rules of the pirates. But I take notice you're not a pirate and cannot invoke their rules. Whoa, wait a minute. Who are the specific rules created for? Only a member of the class. Who are the rules for the court procedures and all of these other things created? For the members of the class. And what are the class that is coming before the Admiralty Administrative Tribunals? Members of the military and vessels controlled by the military. Living souls are not a member of that class, and the rules do not apply to them. They are exempt. And then the pirate captain looked at her and said something else. that was probably even more incredible. He looked at her and said, and the rules are not really rules, they're more like suggestions. If you're in a bankruptcy and have no capacity to enforce anything by execution of law, what good are laws and rules? They are in a position where you cannot enforce them. Because you cannot enforce them, they may appear to be laws and rules and judgments, but no one has the power of execution of them. Therefore, they're more like suggestions. So this young lady is looking at this pirate captain in amazement, like, am I understanding what is taking place here? Have I come out here and been honorable, expecting honor in return, and now these people are not going to give me honor? But remember, the captain has given her 2 responses and observances with respect to her new draft in question. Is 2 a completion? No. What is a completion? 3 or 7. So the captain has not been fully exhaustive in his response and explanation to the young lady. So the captain comes out and he further says, but besides, in your draft to me, you never mentioned this, you never mentioned that, and that which you now want, but which you're not going to get. And the captain turned and walked away. Now remember, everything is backwards. So the last thing the captain said was the most important. The second to last thing he said was the second most important, and the first thing he said was the least important. So the least of importance is the fact that she's not a class under the rules and can't invoke them. But the second most important thing is that the rules are only there as guidelines and suggestions, and they do not have any force. What was the answer to the girl's question? What was the most significant part of the negotiation between this young lady and the captain of the pirate ship that determined the outcome of the commercial activities and wager? What was the issue? The girl didn't ask specifically in her draft for what she wanted. She doesn't know how to write an agreement which is airtight, providing her her remedy. The captain of the vessel quite accurately gave her everything she asked for, nothing less and nothing more. Immaterial and irrelevant to the rules of the procedure upon which she invoked the proceedings, and having no force and effect to whether or not she was a member of the system by which the rules either did or did not apply. So this young lady now became an adventurer on the pirate vessel, sailing with the crew of the living dead. The church was on a maritime cruise with the living dead. And there were no living souls on board the vessel to deal with. And the prize booty belonged to the captain of the vessel. She had no rights on board the vessel except to be accorded with the same amount of honor to which she accorded the captain and the rest of the crew. And when she treated them badly, she correspondingly lost benefits. And when she settled down and treated them with respect, even though they were dead men, she got treated correspondingly with respect. Now, what is interesting is, back on the island, the governor was very upset that his daughter had been kidnapped by pirates. The young suitor who was vowing for her hand in marriage stated that he wanted to go after her and rescue her, but it would be way too dangerous, even though he was the captain of the military force on the island with certain military vessels at his disposal to go after the pirates. But he refused to do so until the time was absolutely right, so he would know that he would not lose his life rescuing the girl he wanted to marry and the governor's daughter. However, the young man who was the blacksmith apprentice on the island didn't care what risk there would be to his life. He had to go save the girl that he loved, even though he could never tell her he loved her, because he was not of the same status and position, and it would be a dishonor to her to even say he loved her, but he had to go try to save her, even if he would perish trying. The problem was, he had no vessel, he had no sailing knowledge, he had none of that which would get him from his position and attitude of wanting to save this young woman to the point where he would be in the physical position where he could try to carry out that activity without enlisting help. It just so happens there is this other lunatic man that had been arrested on this island, who had been charged with being an insane pirate, who happened to have been put into prison. And it appeared to this young man the only way he would ever be able to go on an adventure and rescue the young lady would to be get this insane pirate, break him out of jail, use his wily tricks and techniques to steal a vessel, get a crew, and go save the young lady. So we have an adventure. We have the young blacksmith who is way too honorable, way too straight-laced, way too naive in terms of things of the world, who is aligned with this idiot pirate who's totally insane, has absolutely no qualms about doing anything in life, it appears, and these two opposites are now on an adventure to go out and rescue the young lady if, in fact, she is not dead. There are many, many things going on in the background of this movie, which deals with what we've been dealing with, because the pirates are nothing more than the straw men that we're dealing with today. And the pirates attempt to redeem themselves by collecting the 882 coins and spilling the blood of an innocent man so that they would be able to go back to their living, breathing, touching, emotional lives of living again, really reaches to the desire of most patriots to be able to shed the straw man and go back to being a living, breathing man, which the system recognizes you in your primary status rather than through the vessel of your straw man. The writers of this story have encoded lots of little innuendos all the way through this, poking fun at the system that we are living in today, both on an express and an implicit level for those that have eyes to see and ears to hear. Plus, it's a cute adventure, great music, fantastic scenery, and our idiot pirate captain absolutely steals the whole movie in the way that he plays this part. You will certainly enjoy that film. Johnny Depp plays the idiot pirate. He has not had such a good part since Edward Scissorhands, and it's much better even than the part that he played in that movie. This is absolutely a part made in heaven for him. And do not believe that this lunatic pirate is exactly what you may or may not think he is anyway. There are all kinds of surprises in this story. Another movie that came out this weekend that most of the critics have not really praised, and in the background, a film in which even some of the leading actors are less than happy about the way the movie plays out, is called The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And in this particular film, you have a story which the movie tells you occurs in the year 1899. It is basically one of these movies that have come to the screen in the summer of 2003 dealing with comic book heroes, larger than life, come to rescue the world, such as Spider-Man and the Hulk and a bunch of others. In this particular story, you have 6 superheroes, and these 6 superheroes have gotten together and been woven into this story. And like some of the reviewers have said, they took 6 superheroes out of the comic books where the copyrights have expired on their activities so that you could write a story without having to pay royalties to any of the old authors. And they have brought these superheroes together for the purpose of saving the world from a bad guy who, of course, is going to subdue everyone in the world and destroy the whole world or take everyone captive. Notice you have 6 superheroes, 6 being the number of man. So basically the story is the fight by men for their redemption or their salvation from having been put into the condition of having to serve a world empire or a world king who has indebted the whole world underneath him and carries the debt note on all of the people in all of the nations. In this particular story, you actually have 5 men and 1 woman as superheroes. And each one of the characters brings a special trait to this league, which has been organized by a leader of a British government for the purpose of saving the world from the bad guy that's going to subdue the whole world. One of the heroes is the Invisible Man. One of the heroes is Captain Nemo and his vessel, the Nautilus. And then there are several other heroes, too. Dorian Gray. The woman is one of the people that were in the original story fighting vampires coming out of Transylvania, etc., etc. And it appears as though the bad guy is calling a conference of bankers and world leaders in Venice, and he is going to secretly blow up and destroy all the world leaders that get together at this meeting, so that by destroying all the superpowers of the world, he can step into the vacuum and the void and take over and run the world. So our League of Extraordinary Gentlemen have been called together for the purpose of stopping the bad guy so that he cannot blow up this world leader conference and take over the world. But there are a lot of twists and turns in what you think are who they are, not who they are, and what they're supposed to be. And again, the story is very, very interesting because it turns out that the 6 were chosen to be the group that was going to save the world, but in reality they weren't chosen to save the world. They were chosen to get together so that the bad guy could clone the 6 super savers into races of entities that would serve the bad guy with extraordinary powers. So the 6 primary people in the league were the principals, but it turns out that there was DNA stolen from each of them so that they would be cloned. So they had their straw men that they were fighting working in the background, squeezing them out, taking over their position, working for the bad guy. So once again, what is it that Hollywood is telling you, which is not anything but the pattern of what has been happening and how they have been destroying the world by replacing the honor and the activity of living people with their clones or their straw men of dead entities working for the appropriate system backwards to destroy liberty in this world. Between the 2 stories, you want to see Pirates of the Caribbean. You will not be disappointed. It is a fantastic story, and it has a lot of entertainment value to it. I was talking maybe even a month or 2 ago about a lady over in Iowa that was doing some process, and in that process, this lady had developed this pet food and was marketing the pet food on the internet with a website company. And lo and behold, the Secretary of State or the Attorney General of this state came and brought suit against this woman in this enterprise and her successors and got a preliminary injunction to shut her down. And she had been arguing for a while, and then she learned that, okay, you've got to do acceptance, return, peace, all this kind of stuff for settlement and closure. So after at first she started arguing, then she came back and tried to settle and close the whole matter. And I think the last time I reported to you what was going on is she was called into a court hearing to show cause why she should not be held in contempt of that court. She went to the court proceedings. At the court proceedings, the judge had asked her a number of questions, and she tried to do what she understood she should be trying to do. And what ended up happening is the judge ordered her put in jail for 30 days on contempt of court, to which she was put in jail. And when she was put in jail, the judge went on vacation and she didn't get out. And I got a call from one of her friends saying, you know, this lady's in jail, what can we do to help her? And I'm going, well, gee, what in the world did she do that kept her in contempt? He said, well, I don't know, but whatever it was, she's in jail, and we need to try to help her, to which I tried to do some things, and then the next thing I knew is here a week or so ago, she's on the phone with me and says, gee, I'm out of jail, and I need to do some stuff. What should I do? And I said, well, golly, I have no idea. Where's the case going? Send me some paperwork, and let's see what's happening, and then from there, we'll decide where you got to go. So, okay, she faxed over some paperwork. And in that paperwork is some very interesting things that are going on here. I have an order granting permanent injunctive and other relief signed by the court in her case. And this is dated way back a number of months ago to March 6, 2003. This case had been going on for a while. And here's what this order granting permanent injunctive relief in this case says. On this 13th day of February 2003, the caption matter comes before the court for contested final hearing. The plaintiff, State of Idaho, or Iowa, appeared by Assistant Iowa Attorney General so-and-so. Defendant A, there's several defendants here, appeared in person without counsel. Defendant B, that's the woman that I've been talking to, appeared in person without counsel. Testimony was received, and the court, having now reviewed the pleadings and considered the record made, now makes these findings and conclusions. What is not said is more eloquent than what is said. Now, at any place did the word fact appear in this first paragraph? You're right. At no time did this order state the word facts having been determined. I remind you it says testimony was received. Did it say that any facts were introduced into the court pursuant to rules of evidence? No. Then the court said, having reviewed the pleadings, are there any facts basically offered as evidence in pleadings? No. Never. Evidence, facts are different than pleadings. Pleadings are requests and arguments. So having received testimony and reviewed pleadings and considering the record made, did they even say there was any evidence introduced into the record? No. The court now makes these findings and conclusions. Does it say findings of facts or conclusions of law? No. Next paragraph starts with this title, History of Proceedings. A petition in equity in this matter was filed on May 1st, 2002, at which time plaintiff's state of Iowa was granted a temporary injunction against all defendants named in the petition. We now know that this is an equitable proceeding. What does the court pay attention to in equitable proceedings? Assumptions, presumptions, and the method of procedure. We don't care about the facts. We don't care about reality. We don't care about truth. The court goes on. Contemporaneously, comma, the court set hearing to consider whether the temporary injunction would be superseded by a preliminary injunction, period. Notice of the filing of said petition, comma, the issuance of the temporary injunction, comma, and the subsequent hearing to consider the issuance of a preliminary injunction during the pendency of the action was served on defendant B and A, comma, individually, comma, and in their respective capacities as representatives of all the other defendants, which were entities or companies that were listed on the internet selling all this pet food. To give you a flavor of what the name of the companies were, the companies were called something like Avian Medicine Chest, Canine Medicine Chest, etc. On June 6th, 2002, an evidentiary hearing was held to determine whether the court should enter a preliminary injunction, that, was the temporary injunction previously issued, had stated, enjoined and restrained all defendants from further activity of any kind or nature associated with the marketing of any pet medicines or foods, period. None of the defendants appeared at the June 6, 2002 hearing. Didn't that constitute a dishonor of the court? Okay. The state presented evidence of violations of Iowa Code Chapter 714